Evening. We'll call the Mandan Park District regularly scheduled July meeting to order. Today is July 14th, 2025. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay, none. Public communication from visitors. We have a few people in the audience tonight. Anybody care to stand up and talk about any of the agenda items we have? Nope. Okay. Close that portion of the meeting. Moving on to, I guess we'll have one little change in the agenda. We will table item 1 until our presenter gets here, and then we'll talk to Jeff when he gets here. So can we get approval for June 9th, 2025 meeting minutes, please?
I'll make a motion to approve June 9th, 2025 regular meeting minutes.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Freilich.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Mutter. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Motion carries. Moving on to item 2. We have a couple of guests here to talk to us about a capital improvement plan for our asphalt trails and parking lots. Grant and Jared, is that right? Okay, come on up.
Switch this over, Cole. Okay, all right. Well, thank you. My name is Jared Klabundi, More Engineering. This is Grant Doctor for More Engineering. You, as the Park District, do maintain a capital improvement plan. We're here to specifically talk about parking lots and trails and adding this stuff to your capital improvement plan. We kind of we're a civil engineering consulting firm. We specialize in infrastructure, streets. We work for about 150 communities across North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota. Park districts, cities, counties, rural water districts, water resource districts, anything that involves civil engineering work. So I'm going to start the presentation by talking just a hair about More Engineering, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about asphalt and how it performs, and then Grant is going to wrap it up with your specific areas, the recommendations for them, and then the cost associated with maintaining them for the next 10 years. So ask me any question at any time. Like I mentioned, headquartered in Fargo, Grant and I are both here in Bismarck. We have 49 employees in the Bismarck-Mandan area. So over the last few years, we've done a lot of work in the city of Mandan and the region out here. So my background is I've got a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from North Dakota State University. I've been working as an engineer for 19 years in North Dakota. Grant is with me, civil engineer from University of North Dakota, again, about 5 years here in the Bismarck area. So with our work, doing this type of work, it qualifies us to both predict the life expectancy of these pavements and recommend improvements to them and build CIPs like this. So like I said, I'm going to talk a little bit about asphalt. So there's generally 2 different types of pavement. There is what we call rigid pavements, and there's what we call flexible pavements. So rigid pavements would be concrete pavements. Concrete is a higher upfront capital cost and then virtually no maintenance going forward. So you budget higher amounts to build it, and then you do little in the form of maintenance to them over the years. Asphalt is considered a less expensive pavement and much higher maintenance and repair costs associated with it. If you project the life out over 40 or 50 years, concrete oftentimes becomes the better value, but the upfront capital cost makes it almost a necessity to pave things in asphalt upfront. So thus you have a lot of asphalt parking lots, a lot of asphalt trails. You're no different than the city streets that we have throughout Mandan. Almost everything is asphalt. Okay, so you didn't do anything wrong. It just they're higher to maintain. So what is asphalt? Asphalt is it's a physical reaction of building an asphalt road. It's hot oil mixed with rock and sand, blended together, put down, rolled at a certain temperature, and that's what you have. And it's very, very simple. It performs and deteriorates exactly like we expect it to. Versus concrete. Concrete is a chemical reaction. When you put concrete down on the ground, it actually gets stronger and harder as it ages and the crystals form. So you've got something that's going to perform really well right away with asphalt and then deteriorate over time. Again, ask me any questions at any time. So when we look at and build asphalt streets, they're generally built from the bottom up. You know, what you see on top is a thin layer of asphalt, but oftentimes there's a kind of a robust system below it to make it perform. If you just put blacktop on top of muck or topsoil or something that's not stable, it's not going to hold up. All right, so your trails and your parking lots, what you see is pavement. You know, they're only going to have 3 to 5 inches of asphalt on top. So if something is happening below the pavements, that usually reflects through to the top, and that's usually the root. Oftentimes is the root cause of a failure is something happening in the subgrade below the pavement, moisture, for instance, or something. So the two main causes of the deterioration of asphalt is structural, which would be like, you know, farm to market roads, oil loadings, anything that's like pounding on the pavements. If you got something that's like a crossing and you've got vehicles or trucks crossing it, you're going to see this. The other thing is just, the other main cause is what we call environmental. That's just basically aging. Asphalt. Think of the shingles on your roof. As they get to be 20 and 30 years old, they dry out, they get brittle, they break. It's the same thing that's happening with asphalt. As asphalt ages, it dries out, it cracks, it gets brittle, and if you never touched the asphalt, you never drove over it, it would still deteriorate. It's not going to look like fresh pavement after a number of years, just due to exposure to the sun, the wind, the air, and time. Any questions so far?
So what's the average asphalt parking lot then?
We are going to get into that. Good question. All right, so this is a graph from our textbook from college, and this was actually developed by, it says Auburn, but University of Wisconsin has a similar guideline. So what this is meant to show you is a couple things. The scale on the left is quality, so we rate a brand new pavement as a 10, and the x-axis on the bottom is life, so years. So what this shows you is that a pavement is going to be beautiful, black, oily, wonderful, smooth, right away when it's built. And as it ages, it's going to perform pretty well. You notice that this is not a linear graph. It does not just go straight, you know, top left to bottom right. It performs really well for the first, 8 to 10 years, and then it starts going a lot faster. So the cracks, the divots, the breaking, the roughness starts to get a lot worse at about age 10. This is important, and I'll get into it in just a little bit more, because we can then plan our improvement projects at the right time because we understand how asphalt behaves, and we can try and keep it in good shape by planning in advance, by building these things into your capital improvement plans. So what this shows is a pavement put down. I would expect that a typical pavement, if you did no maintenance to it, never touched it, never did anything with it, it would last about 20 years. This shows 16. It would just be very rough and rugged for those last few years. This is not perfect. There's a lot of environmental factors that go into it. The drainage, the traffic, the thickness of it, the subsoil conditions, all the variables. But I like this graph though, because it shows that it performs as expected. First thing I'm going to talk about, or next thing I'm going to talk about, is kind of the how we label some of the problems. The pavement on the left, this is not from Mandan, but what I generally see there is I see a transverse crack. Asphalt has to crack, just like concrete cracks. But in concrete, we joint it, we saw it, we cut it, we break it in those spots to tell it where to crack. We can't do that with asphalt. So it just cracks, and then we react and fill those cracks. The other thing I see there is that pavement has turned gray. So fresh oily black pavement is very good. As it ages, that oil will start to oxidize a little bit. It'll look more rocky. That's because we're losing oil. It needs a refresher, right? It needs a fresh coat of oil. Next thing that I see there is a problem between asphalt and concrete. We place concrete in parking lots to aid in drainage improvements. It's really tough to lay asphalt at a perfect grade. That's why we use concrete in areas for drainage, for getting moisture off of asphalt. There gets to be problems between those two surfaces if we can't keep the moisture out, and that's what you see there is moisture that got in, froze, heaved, and then broke up those areas. Okay. When your pavements get even further along and old, the transverse, longitudinal, and block cracking happens first, and then eventually you get to that point where you have alligator cracking. It's kind of a joke there, but it's a random small blocks. You don't want to get to that point because that pavement has failed. But that's kind of how we label things, and when you read the report, you'll see some of that. So again, back to this pavement, as we go from brand new pavement to complete failure, this is kind of how the cracking should perform. We'll start with the transverse cracks, maybe every 30 to 50 feet. Then we'll see the longitudinal cracks. If you look at the parking lots that you guys have, you'll recognize some of these things. They're totally expected. We'll then get to the point where everything's in large blocks. Those might be huge blocks right away, and the blocks will start to get smaller until you get complete failure. Any other questions yet? No? Okay. All right, so then we get to treatments. All right, so what do we do? How do we prevent it? How do we extend the life of the pavements? So the first thing, it's going to go from minimal repairs to most expensive, minimal and cheapest to most extreme and most expensive. So this first one, crack filling and sealing, is a relatively cheap way to maintain your pavements. Some cities and county staff can do this stuff on their own. Oftentimes, though, you end up having to hire this done too, but crack sealing and filling should be done every couple of years. What you're trying to do is prevent moisture from getting into those cracks. As soon as moisture gets down into that subgrade, freezes, thaws, you start busting up your pavements. So the brand new pavement might only have one crack every 30 feet, but as that pavement gets to be 15 or 20 years old, it's virtually impossible to do this level of sealing because you're going to have a spider web of cracks every 2 feet apart, and you can't do it. So then we get to the next level of treatment, which is called chip sealing or seal coating. They're kind of used interchangeably with each other a little bit, but in that case, what they're doing is putting hot oil down over the entire pavement and then putting a layer of chips down. The chips kind of act as an armor coat. Rollerbladers don't like them very much on pedestrian trails, so sometimes we'll just seal those trails without putting the layer of chips on. Sometimes we'll use sand. Sometimes there's different ways to do that, but sealing the entire pavement is just an option there. That'll seal all the microscopic cracks that you cannot see. But you can do a treatment like that less frequently. It's more expensive, but it'll cover much more of an area. The next layer of rehabilitation is what I would call mill and overlay. That's where you actually have to grind off several inches of asphalt. It can be tricky. Oftentimes, if there's not much pavement there to begin with, that can be a risky project. It's a tool for the toolbox, but when you do a mill and overlay, or just a simple overlay, you just put another layer of asphalt on top, and that can give you that brand new, beautiful surface. We've got on there 10 to 12 years. That's a fair, reasonable expectation for the life of an overlay. And eventually you get to reconstruction. The problem is getting to, going from crack sealing to chip sealing to mill and overlay to reconstruction is the cost goes up substantially. as you've probably seen with your reconstruction projects. So we want to get into a more frequent repairs of less expensive nature, rather than letting the pavement go from brand new to failure and reconstructing it every 20 years. The recommendation is to do more frequent, less expensive treatments to keep it from deteriorating and getting to that failure point. You have a question, sir? Okay, all right, okay, all right. So what the next graph shows is it's got the same pavement quality, and I don't have a pointer, but as you can kind of see up there, the quality deteriorates. At that point, you do an overlay and extend the life again. The same can be done on this graph on the bottom right. Again, the pavement deteriorates like we expect it to. The top in the dark blue says preventative maintenance. What that is it shows doing a chip seal. So doing a chip seal while the pavement still looks good, still is smooth, it's turned gray, it's it's definitely, it doesn't look bad, but that is the time to do your preventative maintenance, to prevent it from getting to the point where it's bad. The graph on the top left shows the pavement getting down to kind of a poor condition and then doing more of that intermediate repair. The main point of showing these things, I think, is on the graph on the bottom right, there's something in light blue there that says reactive maintenance. That's where we come in. The engineer's job is to recommend the appropriate treatment at the appropriate time. And I get asked oftentimes when we evaluate a pavement and the community wants to do a chip seal on something, thinking that it's going to solve their problems. It's usually a cost thing. They want to do something very, very inexpensive to rehabilitate their pavements. And if they do the wrong treatment, it can be a total waste of money. And that can be disappointing because the leaders expect that the engineer is going to tell them what they need to hear, even if it's a costly pavement maintenance project. So the worst thing I can do is just tell you to go ahead and chip seal it, and you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars chip sealing something for it to just fail right away quickly within a few years. So it's, if you do the preventative maintenance when you're supposed to, not waiting to then you can extend the life. If you if you try to do a minor maintenance project after it's already failed, you're not going to be happy with it. I hope that makes sense. Okay, getting close to the end here, and then Grant will take over. So, like I mentioned, it was our job here to prepare we evaluated your pavements, and we're trying to paint the picture for the next 5 to 10 years to help you plan budget-wise of what these pavements need. Here's some of the things that we'd advise you not to do. You can't just think that Dustin and the maintenance staff is going to maintain the pavements. It's not practical. It's not possible. They don't have the equipment and the manpower and the materials to try and do these things. So don't expect, don't think that they're mismanaging things by these pavements failing. Next thing is, don't be surprised. Plan for these improvements, then we can seek out grant dollars to try and take some of the pain away, get a little cost share for them. So building out a plan like you are doing, planning in advance there, that bullet number 2 is a big thing here. Don't allow the pavements to get to the point where they need to be patched. Patching is super expensive, and when you patch, generally you're chasing your tail, because you're patching, and then the next few years you're going to end up patching next to it, then you're going to patch next to it, then you're going to patch next to it, and you've got the poor ride quality. When you see parking lots that have patches all over in them, they have probably neglected them. They've probably put off the preventative maintenance that they should have done, and they are just spending their money patching when they could have spent their money doing the sealing and the chip seal and the surface treatments that they could have done. And it's a losing measure. So try not to get to the point where you're having to do patching. It'll drain your budget fast. Wait 2 to 3 years. So when pavements need treatment and you've been planning for it, I have seen pavements go from needing a chip seal to waiting 2 or 3 years to then all of a sudden deteriorating rapidly and then needing a mill and overlay. And the cost will go up 2 or 3 times. So it's just a recommendation that don't think they're going to maintain their quality. So and if you can't do it all at once, I understand, but I mean, just don't be surprised that they're going to keep deteriorating. Next thing not to do is don't have a plan to reconstruct small portions each year. I've seen this a lot with cities. A city might have 500 blocks of pavement, and their plan is to do 5 or 10 blocks a year. That's a trap because as you get 5 or 10 blocks done over the course of 5 years, it's very inefficient to do small projects. You're paying the engineer a lot, you're paying mobilization costs, and you will never get through all of those areas in the time that you have allotted. So, your pavements will have failed by the time you get back around to them. Last thing here is bad fixes. I don't think this really applies to you, but these are some times when communities get duped into thinking that they've spent lots of money on things, pulled out of their general account to repair areas and then be disappointed with those very quickly. These are some photos just of some poorly redone areas that we've seen. For instance, that photo on the right is that group spent a lot of money overlaying that parking lot just to watch it peel off, and unfortunately they spent a lot of money on that, and the money could have been spent better had they done the appropriate treatment. So, any questions for me before Grant gets into your guys' situations? No? Okay. Go ahead, Grant.
All right, so what we looked at when we were doing our evaluation of your guys' capital improvement plan were your existing asphalt trails and then your existing parking lots. So you'll recognize a couple of these pictures. On the left there, that's on Collins Avenue, and then on the right there, it looks like that's on Boundary Street. So you can see the old pavement. You can see that oil starting to. There's a lot of aggregate that's showing. Clearly old pavement there. Next one, we got some alligator cracking. These are in parking lots now. These are more specific in certain areas within a parking lot. You didn't have parking lots that were completely alligator cracked all over, thankfully. So these are just certain instances within parking lots. So you can see Dakota Centennial, which would be at the rodeo grounds and racetrack, and then Prairie West, the entrance to Prairie West also. So your guys' capital improvement plan serves a couple benefits. So one thing it can be used for, you see trails here on the screen, is when you're looking at funding applications, it's an easy way to plan for those funding applications. It allows you to pull this up, see, okay, what are our needs, what funding applications are available. Whenever Jared or I get something across our email or our desk about a funding application for trail, parking lot, park, something like that, we'll send it over to Cole. Cole obviously knows some of them you guys have been using. TA grant and other resources that are available, but it's a good way to plan for that and show these funding agencies that you guys are planning and you guys are doing your job of planning for the future to take care of these trails. So the PACER rating, that is how we rated these. So like Jared said, 1 to 10, that's on a 1 to 10 scale. This was developed by the University of Wisconsin. It just provides that scale of how these deteriorate. So 10 is going to be a brand new pavement. You see Old Red Trail Section 1. That was just paved a couple weeks ago, I guess. So I would hope that's still a 10. Lewis and Clark Trail there, that is actually scheduled for a project with the TA grant in 2027. That would be out along 1806 there. And then you go down that list. Prairie West Trail to Expressway, that kind of had a range in there. That's a long trail with many different spans on there, so that was 5 to 7. Other than that, besides Lewis and Clark, for the most part, everything was still in pretty good shape. So Now you look at maintaining those trails and keeping them in that good shape so you can avoid those large expensive projects. And on the right, you'll see the year. The years put in there, those are essentially placeholders right now. We did our planning, and that's from our engineering viewpoint. But you guys as a commission need to now look at that, and you guys can adjust those as well. So things can be moved if, obviously there's financials that you have to take into consideration. So if things need to be adjusted, we can work with you guys on that, and projects can move around. And again, this is a plan. This is not a set map for how these things will be done, but it's just a plan to look at as you guys are budgeting. So that map's really small there. I have a blown up one here next, but you guys have over 16 miles of asphalt and concrete trails. So we inspected those. We didn't look at the gravel, but asphalt and concrete. Varying conditions like you saw on the last screen. We used that pacer rating 1 to 10, and we just used that. They have pictures in that manual, and it shows you what a 1 should look like, 2, 3, 4, and what a brand new pavement should look like. So we use that to evaluate these. Schedule for improvements for trails. This was prioritized based on rating. If something was in high need, obviously it was in 2027. That was the first year we used. And if something fell down the list, then it was in 2030 or wherever it fell on that list. But we just staggered those based on their need, and we followed a standard schedule. This is, like Jared was showing, the different treatments you can do. Every 2 years, 2 to 3 years, you should be doing crack seal. We used a seal coat on the trails, so chips, again, like Jared mentioned, rollerbladers, bikes, things like that. They don't behave well when there's chips on the trail. They get stuck in wheels, things like that. So we used a seal coat, and what we would do there is a thicker seal coat. We talked with a couple professionals, and that's what they're seeing all over the Midwest and the country really is, instead of using chips, if you want your rollerbladers to use it, then use a thicker seal coat on that. So seal coat every 5 years, and then mill and overlay every 10. And we did show, just for your guys' purposes, to show a reconstruct every 20. But the goal of this is to get that maintenance schedule where you guys are doing this crack seal coat, if needed, a mill and overlay, to avoid that reconstruct at year 20. We did show it. It's a big number. It's there just to show you guys, but the goal is to avoid those big projects by doing this maintenance along the way. There's the larger map. Again, it's hard to see, but we do have that. We put together a report as well, so you guys will be able to see that report. Parking lots. I'll say something about parking lots. Again, we evaluated these in the same pacer rating scale, so 1 to 10. These have recommended treatments and years as well. You'll notice on those years, what we did here is we tried to stagger these together, or not stagger them, but group them together and then do larger projects. And the reason behind that is we were looking at financing and talking about this a little bit with park staff, and you have the option to do a special improvement district and then assess these to yourselves. So that's what we were looking at there, is do larger projects. And whether these need to be broken down more or less, we can do that as well. But we showed 2 projects, larger projects, one in 2028, one in 2030. Those can be moved and adjusted. Your treatments just might change as well. So if you want to move one from 2028 to 2030, it might just adjust that treatment and the cost of it a little bit. But those are things that can be done. The bottom there, you'll see one is not determined yet, south side parking lot expansion. That one we put in here. We drew up a little schematic and put a cost to it. But that would be, you guys purchased that land across from Public Works down by the south side baseball fields. So that one is in here as well to be placed. There's the map. So you guys have 13 asphalt concrete parking lots. There's one concrete, that was Eagles Park. And those are also in varying conditions. These ones receive pacer.
Grant, can I interrupt you for a second? And Cole, maybe you can answer this. But when I know you've been talking with the school and the demo of the school, we're gonna need to do something to that pavement there too. So I don't know if you have that.
Yes, the all-season arena's on that top third.
Oh,
top
it
third
is?
one from
Okay.
the top.
There
Yeah,
it is.
and that we've had
So that would be
discussions.
after
And
everything's
unfortunate, the
done.
condition of that asphalt trail, parking lot at the all-season arena today is in poor condition. And
Yeah,
then once the
that's a pretty
construction,
good rating, I think.
yeah, when the construction happens, the trucks are going to beat it up even more. So yeah, we're going to have some additional discussions. Probably end up being a reconstruction to add on additional parking.
Okay. All right, thank you.
While you're bringing that up, what about Legion Park for the levee?
As far as Legion Park, right now, they're not allowed to drive on the asphalt in regards to where they're going to have their construction easement. They'll be on basically between hole 3 and the Legion warming house. But I'm sure there will be some overflow driving and parking and mobilization at times. Obviously, if they do any damage, they'll be responsible for those repairs. But as of right now, that's not the intention for them to be on there.
Thanks, Cole.
Go ahead, Grant.
So these use the same pacer rating, 1 to 10. Schedule for improvements on this, like I mentioned, on a set schedule, so 2028 and 2030, and then you'd look at staggering those projects every 5 years, or however you determine. Again, that's just going to affect your recommended maintenance on those, but we showed it every 5 years. So in 2028, if one project receives maintenance, it would receive another maintenance in 2033. So when we're looking at projecting out for 2030, more 2033, 2038, we're going to show you those here too. It gets a little hard to project that because you don't know what the weather's going to do, if you have drainage issues, the loading on that parking lot as well, just how that pavement's going to react. So this capital improvement plan should really be looked at every 1 to 2 years, evaluate those pavements, and obviously before you do a project, you look at that as well so you can schedule the right improvements. But this is just a planning guide looking at a recommended schedule for asphalt. But just know things change, especially as you're projecting out 8 to 12 years from now. There's a picture of that south side parking lot expansion. This is a schematic. We just drew something up for the purposes of getting a cost estimate. So that was the land you guys purchased, and that house was torn down. Estimated cost is over $1 million by the time you do the dirt work and asphalt and curb, but again, that design could change as well. So we just wanted to put a placeholder in for you guys so you had that in your capital improvement plan.
Since we're talking about it, and just for my curiosity, if we would cement that, what would be the difference in price?
If you would cement it,
So, well, I think Commissioner Mutter, I kind of had the same question. There was a time where I think concrete was about the same price as asphalt. What is the difference in a cubic yard now, I guess, is kind of what you're...
there was a time, was it 2 years ago, I think, where asphalt was really expensive. We could run it in concrete really quick. We could look at bid prices from the area, and we could get that back to you. We could show you an alternate. So in our report, we could make sure it has a cost estimate for both. So.
I really want to guess an answer.
Yeah.
We shouldn't. We should just look.
You're
And Commissioner
on
Mutter,
TV.
when we were, Commissioner Mutter and Commissioners, when we were running those numbers at Prairie West for the improvements that we were looking at in that parking lot, asphalt was $250,000 for like 50 or 60 stalls, and concrete was over $350,000. It was almost $100,000 more. Just something to relate to what we had in most recent bids on.
But how much less work would there be in the end run? That's what I was thinking of.
You could perform that life cycle analysis over 40 years and look at it and use these schedules to look at that and add in inflation, things like that. So that is another thing too. We did add in inflation in these estimates. So you'll see that they're not perfectly round numbers. That's due to the inflation. We put 5% inflation on those. These are estimates based on measurements and what we viewed in the field. If you move something from 27 to 29, you'll gain those extra 2 years of inflation just on this. But again, we can't predict what that inflation will do.
So what are we showing for total investment over the next 5 years, let's say?
5 years,
5 years.
1.2 and 7 is 2.
So the point here is we're trying to help Cole build this into his capital improvement plan to maintain these pavements, get them all into excellent quality so that you could budget for these things. If you can't budget for them, perhaps form a special improvement district to spread out the cost over a number of years. And also, when you're applying for grants, to apply for the appropriate treatment and not be off base.
So running through it quick, 2027, the blue ones are going to be the trails, and then the parking, they look like the same. And then gray is trails, blue is parking lots. So on the screen there, 2027, you can see the TA grant. That one, we showed it as a TA grant, so outside funding versus local funding. And then we had one other project in there for 2027. 2028 would be the first year of a larger parking lot project. So you can see that reflected there with a couple trail projects in there. The I-94 Business Trail was submitted for a funding application in conjunction with the city, so I put that in parentheses just so you guys were aware of that as well. 2029 would just be a trail year, and then 2030 would be another parking lot year with one trail. 2033 and 35, that's where you get into the next round of the parking lots. So again, this would be something you would evaluate in that year 2030, 31, and just look where you're at, and then you'd go through this process again just to reevaluate your asphalt parking lots.
But you can see here, if we get the pavements brought up to a good quality, those future improvements are considered chip seals. And chip seals are pretty cheap, really. We're trying to avoid getting to the reconstruction by doing the proper treatment and helping you budget for this.
So the next screen will show the reconstructions, and those are the larger numbers, specifically 2038 there. There's quite a few reconstructs in there. Those are what you're trying to avoid. That can balloon your project pretty quick there. So the goal of this is to show you guys that maintenance along the way can reduce the costs in the future, and then to help you guys plan as well.
So
Be determined down there is still your south side parking lot.
I know there's a lot of chip sealing, I think, in that last slide. So I know the city does that too. Does the city have a plan somewhat like this to where, are they chip sealing every year? I mean, I know they just did out in front of my house a couple of years ago. Cost effective to maybe somehow partner with them and get those companies out here doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. The more you can partner with the city and have one contractor come in and do it together, the better. Actually, on this month here, at some point, the city will hopefully be approving their 5-year capital improvement plan as well. And within that capital improvement plan, we identified 7 different areas for maintenance, and that maintenance would include chip seal. So they're looking at doing every 7 to 10 years a chip seal in areas that would include your pavement markings, things like that. So they're looking at the same thing right now of adding that into their schedule and their rotation. So.
Okay. Those are some big numbers.
Yeah.
Well, this is just supposed to be a summary of the report that we provided. Please review the report. We can make adjustments. We can adjust for the different years. We could certainly look at the cost of that parking lot in concrete to give you a better idea. I would almost guarantee that the better value is concrete, especially if, based on what Cole was saying there. Sometimes bidding them against each other can be an attractive way of doing it. Helps, them compete against each other a little bit. But any questions for us?
One thing, I think we have some crushed asphalt in our district too for parking lots. We used to, I think.
Yeah, in certain areas we do that. I guess not high traffic areas, but kind of keep down the dust and things of that nature.
Yeah.
I guess one thing I'll add is thank you for the information. We've had many teams meetings to kind of resolve and kind of put these numbers into where we thought fiscally the park district could kind of afford it. Obviously, we're going to be approving our 26 budget here at the end of the month, and so it's difficult to say we're going to do something in 26 and 27 without just getting this report here today. One of the things that we can talk about at the retreat would be we have our strategic plan. Dustin and I started working on how we want to build these in, and we are capped at the 3% mill increase, but the special assessments are not capped. But we still got to be due diligence as far as how we're going to impact those mills going up, because obviously it's a direct reflection on taxpayers and what we have coming on with the south side already there, with Memorial Highway getting done. I mean, we do have some big projects, but the good thing is a lot of our specials are coming off. Right. And so we don't have a whole lot of debt. We have the ability to do an improvement district, as they mentioned, but we also have the ability to pull dollars off in cash and build that into our vision fund. So our fund balance that we have set aside as our policy at 35%, we can start peeling dollars off into a vision fund and start figuring out what years we want to do this and try to figure out if it's $500,000 to $1 million every year to get something started. But since 2015, we've done over $25 to $35 million worth of construction between the tennis center, the sports complex, Memorial Ballpark. You got Raging Rivers. We have a lot of asphalt parking lots. And so when you build these facilities, we have to be able to maintain them. I think we've done a very good job with our trails. Dustin's got a good handle on that. We've been applying for many grants. It's the parking lots that are starting to see its age, and we've done some crack sealing, some sealing. It seems to be working, but I think Prairie West, All Seasons Arena, and Raging Rivers are probably our three ones that need to be addressed, and that's a mill overlay ones.
How about, does this type of work qualify for like our geo bond?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, we can do a geo bond, and we can do an improvement
we-
district. We bond it back to ourselves.
Okay. Okay. Anything else for these guys? Thank you guys
Thank
for your
you.
work. Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, we're always open for questions too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I see Jeff is here. Jeff, we're going to move you up. We skipped you, and we're going to move you right back up to the top. So, Jeff, if you want to come up, your item number 1 here, presentation from Wheelchair and Walleyes for an ADA lift for the boat ramp. Hi, Jeff.
How you doing? Thank you, commissioners. I appreciate this. Well, quite honestly, this might be the easiest lead into a meeting. I mean, we just watched a PowerPoint presentation, millions of dollars worth of expenses, and we're actually trying to give you something. So, well, we're pretty much done now, so we're good. Anyways, my name is Jeff Goss. I'm with the organization called Wheelchairs and Walleyes. I don't know if how many of you or if any of you are familiar with our organization. So I'll just kind of give you a brief rundown. About a year ago, my wife and I, through our charitable organization, we own a open water tournament called the Dakota Walleye Classic. And my wife and I fish all over the country. And about a year and a half ago, I just started looking around. It was just at one point in time, I was just at a boat ramp. And that kind of something popped into my head, like, what do people do? You know, what happens if someone's in a wheelchair? And it was something that just kind of nagged at me, just, you know, as we kind of went fishing. And it kind of progressed more and more and more. And then it came to a point when we were at a lake, and it was a really difficult ramp. And it was kind of like, okay, now it's not just something that's nagging at me. I want to find out. So I came back home and to Beulah, North Dakota, and I started doing some research on Lake Sakakawea, third largest man-made reservoir in the country, 170 plus miles in length, over 1,300 miles of shoreline. And what I realized, or what I found, was quite frankly just disturbing. The entirety of the southern part of Lake Sakakawea had literally zero access for any wheelchair users, anybody with mobility issues that had the ability to get them into a boat. Literally nothing. On the north side of the lake, there was a couple of different ramps with some access, but it still required quite a bit of effort to be able to get people into the boat. And so it kind of bothered me. So then we went a little bit further, and I was watching online one day, and there was a Paralyzed Veterans of America tournament in Chamberlain, South Dakota. This kid who has a little Facebook page called Wheelchair Adventures posts this video. And it was a PVA tournament, and they were taking paralyzed veterans, and they were taking lifting straps, and they were putting them underneath their wheelchair, hooking them onto a telehandler, and they were lifting the wheelchairs up, and they were setting them on the boat. The first initial response was, hey, cool, these guys get to eat fish. And then it hit me. And I literally was like, wait a minute. These are our nation's heroes. These guys literally sacrifice their body so that, you know, people at the boat ramp can complain if you're a minute and 32 seconds longer than the next person trying to put your boat in the water. And I was like, not happening, no way. And I went back home and I started kind of trying to figure it out, doing some sketching. I'm not an engineer. I'm not an artist. I just knew that something needed to be done on a community level. I went to my county commission and I basically told them this. I said, here's the deal. This is what's happening. Not in my state, Not in my county, not in my time. It will not happen. As long as I live here, it will not happen. And I'm going to do something about it. That's how Wheelchairs and Walleyes was born. I just basically tried to get a group of individuals together to build something at Beulah Bay, right where we live. What I found was that as this word got out and people started going, wait a minute, what do people do? How do they do it? And then you start talking to people, and all of a sudden people start coming out of the shadows and they go, oh, yeah, I have to get my brother and my uncle and my dad, and we have to throw them over our shoulder and climb into the boat. And all of a sudden people started going, wait a minute, why? Why is this happening? And so we really got to the point where all of a sudden all of these organizations started coming to us and saying, hey, we want to be part of this. Let's do something. Now, you guys, especially you guys, since you're in the Park District, the very first project that we did was Beulah Bay, which is Army Corps of Engineer land, okay, federal government land, which we all know that is not easy to work around. We worked with the AE2S Engineering and a local surveyor. We had all of our equipment, everything that we designed was engineered, ADA specs signed by both civil structural engineers, site plans, the whole works. When our first project that we submitted to the Army Corps of Engineers, we had an approval from the Corps in 14 calendar days, start to finish. We built that project, and again, we thought just on a micro level, just in our own community. All of a sudden, it just blew up. And we have now gone not only from Beulah Bay, but we had one in Devil's Lake. We just built one in Hazen Bay, and it has spread across the country. I literally just got back from Buffalo, New York, where we're putting one on Lake Erie. Now, what is it? What we designed is, from what we can find, the absolute most inclusive, all-around wheelchair ramp and lifting structure in existence. There are pieces of each thing, that someone will have a ramp, someone will have a lift, but there is nothing anywhere that has all of the above. And so what we did is we looked at this pretty much through the lens of 80-year-old husband and wife by themselves at the lake with their 16-foot Alumacraft, and they just want to go out on the water. That's really kind of how we did it. Well, my wife is an attorney, so we also look at everything from a liability standpoint. And so what we found is that we said, okay, we're going to make this ramp. We're going to make it as broad as physically possible. We're going to keep it off of the water so we don't have the liability of dealing with people falling in the water, whatnot. We also, by keeping it off of the water and near the entry point, it allows that husband and wife, if they need to take 20 minutes to fiddle with it, they can. We also designed it so that it is as easy as possible. The chair that we have on there's a solar-powered chair, requires no electricity other than just a solar-powered battery unit. It's 4 buttons, up, down, left, right. The other wheelchair lift that we have next to it, I kind of jokingly say there's a big instruction panel on it, and it kind of looks like one of those things that in the front of your the airline safety pockets, where how to jump out of an airplane, when you're crashing. That's pretty much what it is, and so by doing it that way, it really allows the end user to be able to do it safely on their own time, away from the water. So the vehicle would pull up to the ramp. The wheelchair user would be rolled up the ramp. And then depending on the type of vessel that they're getting into would determine what they use. They would be, if they load into, like I say, a fishing boat, they're loaded into the chair. They are swung around and set into the boat. And then the boat is taken down to the water. If they're in a pontoon, which is really kind of the big thing, especially on the river, is the pontoon. What happens is based on how tall they are, on the trailers. We have another mobile piece of equipment It's called a mobile lift. And what it does is the wheelchair user rolls into this lift. The lift is then raised to the height of the doorway of the pontoon. Then there's a bridge that drops down, and it allows the wheelchair user to roll onto the pontoon. We had it designed in a manner that with the handrails and whatnot, if someone's in a walker or a boot or maybe just unstable, they can do that as well. And so we had it designed to be able to drop down through the majority of the widths of the pontoons. Some are too narrow, but that's where the other chair comes into play. So we really have it set to where they can do both. And so by doing so, what we have done is, especially with the 3 that we have right now, hands down, from what we can find, there is no other state in the country that has the type of accessibility that we have. Shortly after we came out with the very first project, I can't tell you how many people came to me and said, "What about Mandan? What about Mandan? What about that new ramp they're building? What about? What about?" And it was one of those things where a vast majority of our supporters come from the Bismarck-Mandan area. Paulke Steel, Shields, Verity Homes, Superior Walls, all of these companies are Bismarck-Mandan companies. And they all come out, they all, go to us. And so everybody's like, wait a minute, how about we come home? And so when we received the call, obviously it's a no-brainer. Now, what do we do for the community? It's really simple. We're not asking you for money. All we want is access, and that's it. We donate it for free. We've already spoken to the park. We donate it for free. All of the construction is done for free. The engineering is free. The equipment is free. Basically, anything and everything that is associated with that project is donated to the community. It's truly something that where I believe that in today's day and age, where we are, as you guys just saw, multi-million-dollar cost. This is something that, quite frankly, we believe and we have proven that is so badly needed by the community that it's very simple. Give us the location, let your community build it. That's all it's been. And prior to this, prior to even me showing up here, I just received word from Shields that they are donating not only a chairlift to the Mandan boat ramp, but they're going to donate every chairlift in the Bismarck-Mandan area for the next 3 years. I spoke to Paulke Steel this afternoon. Paulke Steel said, absolutely, we're involved. Whatever you guys need steel-wise, we're there. And so it is one of those things where we have just truly embraced the community effort and said, let us do it, let us build it, let it give you to the community, and let it change people's lives. And that's really what we're here for and what we're doing. Any questions thus far?
I think I probably got one.
Yes.
On the chairlift, and I'm going to be honest, I photographed way too many motels that have these chairlifts, and they're wonderful. But I think of all the motels they did, half of them worked. Do we have to take them apart or anything in the wintertime so they continue to work through the year round and stuff like that? And also, do you know how long that battery lasts for that lift chair? And before you go any further, I just want to thank you for even doing this for us. So.
Not a problem. It's our pleasure. We don't need to be thanked. It's our pleasure to be able to do it. To answer your question, the ones at the pools, unfortunately, it is the same company, Aqua Creek Products. They are a 100% made in the USA company in Missoula, Montana. I have, quite frankly, never seen a manufacturer as made in the USA as that company. It's simply mind-boggling. But this is a significantly higher step up from your standardized chair at the edge of a waterway or at the edge of the pool. So a couple of things as far as the equipment. It's all stainless steel, aluminum, everything brass, everything is corrosion resistant. When we give it to you, it's solar powered, a 24-volt battery pack. And the other thing, it comes with a couple of things. We have a really heavy duty cover that goes over the top of it at the end of the season. This one is designed to be in the elements. It's designed to be out there. So it can be removed in a season if you wish. It's basically 3 bolts or 4 bolts on the base, and you could remove it if you wished. But as far as annual maintenance, really, it's going to be about making sure that the battery is properly charged. Now, the way the battery pack works specifically is we have the solar powered unit. The park is also given a wall charger that will go in, a heated shop wherever at the end of the season. When the temperatures get to freezing, they will, and then when they shut down the park, for open water stuff, all they do is they take that battery, hang it on the wall until the next season, and then they put it back in when the season opens up. The cover is a large, heavy-duty canvas cover, excuse me, that has a cable to where you could lock it down if you chose to leave it there. As far as the life cycle of the battery unit, battery unit's going to be 3 to 5 years. Out here, I would probably venture to say closer to 3. They're about $450. Excuse me, $450. One of the things that we do through our organization is we also set aside funds for maintenance, repairs, stuff like that that's out of the ordinary. And so when we do this, we will actually have a fund set up that is specific to this ramp. And so if there's donation pages and whatnot, and so what would happen is in the event that there was a maintenance or a repair item, we would be able to facilitate the payment of that. I just had to do it today. There was a battery that was damaged, and the company sent us a new battery. We're giving it to them. As far as the other piece of equipment, the wheelchair lift itself, the platform lift. So the way that is set up is it's all stainless steel and aluminum entirely, and it's designed to be in the elements again. But the one special thing about this piece of equipment is that when you close the park for the season, that piece of equipment is wholly mobile. So you could actually remove that and bring it into your city offices or whether it be your wellness center or whatnot. And it can be used anywhere where there needs to be a lifting access for a wheelchair, a stage, maybe one of your older buildings that maybe has, a veterans building. In Devil's Lake, they have this beautiful historical building where they have their veterans center and they do their memorial or their Memorial Day celebrations, but they've never been able to get their veterans onto the stage because it's a 100-year-old building and there's no ramp. And so what they do is during the winter season, they'll take it there, use it indoors, and that's one of our requirements. Our requirement says access for anyone. If somebody needs it, they need to be able to use it. And then when the season opens right back up, it goes right back out there. So hopefully that answers your questions.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jeff? Well, thank you, Jeff. Great presentation. I think we even have some space down there for it. I know this is kind of give us information on how it works, and we partner with a lot of people, but I don't hear any what's the catch type thing. So that's great. And I think it can serve, even if it serves a few people right away, it's going to be, I think it's a great idea.
Well, I remember when we were meeting with the city of Devil's Lake, the engineer sat sitting there and kind of, he could see it. We're talking and he wipes his brow and he's like, okay, let's just cut to the case. How much is this going to cost us? Just like that. And I said, absolutely nothing. And by the time we were done with that project, Devil's Lake, the Devil's Lake project kind of ballooned because we're a partner in this. We want to make it right. And so we went from not only our lift, in Lakewood Park. But we also ended up building a 5-foot wide by 60-foot long ADA walkway. We ended up building a 25 by 85 ADA 25 by 85 by 8-inch thick concrete ADA parking lot, and we're working towards building the new ADA bathrooms. So what started out as a $150,000 donation to the community turned into a $450,000 donation, and it was entirely free. The park, everything was donated at no cost to the community through the community partners, and that's really what we're doing here. There's a few things that we have looked at that at the Car Bottoms place. We've already taken some wheelchair users out there and had them roll through the parking lot, and say, hey, how does we've never seen this before, this aggregate, plastic type stuff. And the problem that they ran into is the smaller front wheels get caught in those small holes. But, there's a positive side because of the way that is. If my understanding is correct, anywhere in that immediate vicinity of where we would put that, we would be able to remove those gravel and put in that little plastic plug. Problem solved. We don't have to cut anything out. We don't have to do anything. And so we are not just simply saying, hey, let us build this ramp and donate it. We're saying, hey, let us not only build this, but let us help make Mandan and our capital area the most inclusive area there is in North Dakota for wheelchair users. And so we're a partner from start to finish.
Do we need to make a motion or anything, Cole?
No, we just wanted to be more educational. I think we had reached out last week when we met on site. Everything looks good from our standpoint. Dustin had talked about maybe having taken out some tiles to add some additional concrete to address the issue that we just talked about as far as wheelchairs getting in and out from a vehicle. We may lose one parking stall, which is minimal down there, so I think it's a good win and just more educational for everybody here tonight. And then the last question, I guess, tentatively we talked about trying to have somewhere done around Labor Day. That's still the schedule?
Yes, we're looking at right after Labor Day would be a completion. We do have a few challenges that we're working, trying to navigate right now, of one of which the wheelchair manufacturer is in Calgary, Alberta. And obviously from a location standpoint and a current tariff standpoint, we are donation driven. So those things are challenging, but that's something that we will be able to work through. The other thing I want to cap off with this is something that we haven't discussed yet, is when we build these ramps and we do the dedication, one of the things that we do is we do a really large bronze plaque celebrating the local people, the donors who brought this to fruition. But there is something that is more special than you could possibly ever imagine happen. So one of the things that we do is we have partnered with Moritz Sport and Marine. They have been literally since day one with us. And when we do a ribbon cutting, we then take up to 15 children from our area, from our community, that are wheelchair users. And we partner them with up to 15 pro staff walleye tournament anglers. And we take these children and we get them on the boat, and we literally give them a full-on fishing tournament experience. We give them trophies, we give them shirts, we just do a blowout celebration. And I tell you right now, it is probably one of the most heartwarming, moving things you will ever witness in your life, is to see a person that's never been in a boat before be able to go and catch a fish. This last Hazen Bay project, we had a young girl who was in a power chair, and she came up and she was going to go fishing. Her grandfather came up and turned to Mr. Melby from Moritz Sport and Marine and said, "Hey, can I go?" Dustin's like, "Well, of course you can go. Yeah, no problem." He said, "I need to use the chair to get in." Said, "Oh, yeah, no problem." Come to find out, the gentleman only had a leg. He lost a leg due to some medical condition, and he had not been able to fish since he lost his leg, which I believe was a couple of years. So he had literally not been in a boat since he lost his leg. So they get him in the lake, they get him in the boat, and they go out fishing. And the very first fish that came on the rod, it was the grandfather's pole. And he handed it to his granddaughter, and he watched his granddaughter reel that fish in. Now, the thing that was so special about it is he's also battling leukemia. So now you have a man who is watching his granddaughter catch a fish for the first time. This man is fighting a terminal illness. That is what these ramps do for our community. That right there, I don't know if any of you guys are grandparents, but if God said, called me home right then and there, go ahead, I'm good. At the end of the tournament, when the kids come back, we then do what's called a Children's Mobility Awareness Day Festival. These families spend a fortune taking care of their loved ones that are in chairs. Some have IG tubes, some have unbelievable needs that cost unbelievable amounts of money. So what we have done is we partner with other groups, and we throw an entire festival, start to finish. Games, bubble game. We buy 1,000 bubble guns at a time, and we give the kids the electric bubble guns, face painting, temporary tattoos. The Shriners come out and give them as many free slushies as they can possibly take. All hamburgers, hot dogs. We do not allow $1 to be charged. And we do that because we want the community to come out one time and leave their wallet home. Just enjoy the day. And the big thing is when it comes to wheelchair users, they're always forced to adapt to our world. Everything is adapting to our world. This is one day where everything that we do is adapting to theirs. Nothing that we have is something that they cannot use. We have inflatable games. Every single inflatable game is accessible. So that's really the big thing about our organization. It's not just that. It's about celebrating the community, celebrating the families, giving them something to enjoy, and letting them know that we're there. As a community, we're there. So that is really Wheelchairs and Walleyes.
Thank you, Jeff. Good project, good cause. It's
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you, Jeff. All right. Consider item number 3. Consider matching grant requests from the Mandan Softball Association.
President Meshke and Commissioners, we received one matching grant application for this round, and it was from Mandan Softball Association, and they requested fencing across all 8 fields. And just a reminder that we awarded 3 applications back in February, and that was to Dakota Star Gymnastics, Mandan Soccer Club, and Mandan Horse and Saddle. The Mandan Foundation Board reviewed these applications and recommended giving $3,000 to Mandan Softball Association. Do you have any questions?
Or board wishes?
I'll recommend awarding the matching grant to Mandan Softball Association in the amount of $3,000.
I second that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Freilich, second by Commissioner Melhoff. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. Commissioner Mutter?
Aye.
Commissioner Freilich?
Aye.
Commissioner Melhoff?
Aye.
Aye from me as well. Thank you. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 4. Consider for approval East Bleacher bids for Starion Sports Complex. Hi, Dave.
Good evening, commissioners. Before you in your packet is 3 bids that we received for a new set of bleachers on the east side at Starion Sports Complex. The ones that are currently there are not ADA accessible, and the bleacher companies have looked at them and nobody will retrofit them because of the age of the bleachers. So Cole and I have been working and getting estimates and bids to replace them with about the same amount of seats that are there currently right now, which is about 900 seats that would be over there. This would be on the same concrete slab, and they would have about a 50-foot ramp that would go off to the north side. We have a range of costs. I do recommend going with the SP. Which one is that? What's that? No. I recommend going with, I don't have it on my thing. What's that? Oh yeah, Safe LLC would be the one that I recommend going with for $192,783 for the bleachers and then $24,518 for the demolition of the current bleachers. So that's my recommendation. Answer any questions if you have any.
On the, I'm looking at the bids here. What is there any difference between them? I mean, there's like, SP&E is like 352 versus 190.
So they do get different companies they all work with. I get different bleacher companies that they buy the product from. That's the only thing I can think of, but everything is spec'd the same for the bleachers. So
I think Commissioner Mutter, how I would add this is some bids we win, some bids we lose. And in this situation, I think we've been working with Safe LLC, who's doing the retrofitting to the west side, and he's the one that brought those up. And so those bleachers were brought up for the Mandan Public Schools, the old Ferris Field. They were the ones that brought them up then, so they're familiar with the area. And I think he did not want to do any retrofitting, so I think we got a very competitive bid. And then just to add the last caveat, so this will be split three ways: 1/3 Park District, 1/3 School District, and then 1/3 our joint powers funds that we have set aside with that.
Well, thank you.
I have a couple questions there, President Meshke. Do we need 900 seats there? Is there a reason we put 900? And second part is, how many wheelchair accessible spots do we have to provide?
there's going to be 10 spots provided throughout the bleachers. Is what the came back at, the 1088 spots or 988 locations on this one. Yep.
So do we see 900 people ever sit over there is kind of my question. Do we see future events needing that many seats?
So we do for the Bismarck football games. If they play Bismarck, we will fill that side. That's probably 2 games a year. Track, we do fill it up with the participants all sit over there, that are waiting around or whatever. So it's used quite a bit for that. But as far as like soccer, probably not. I mean, it's probably not. But Cole and I talked about not putting less that's over there now than, so we want to go about the same size.
Okay.
So that's kind of.
So you guys consider it. Okay, Thank you.
That'll fit the footprint we have there with the concrete, and we don't need to pour more concrete?
Nope.
Okay.
We won't have to pour more concrete. No.
And I add to Commissioner Malhoff's comment, do we need to add more for a football field or?
We would have to pour more concrete and get new bids if we added more. This is basically fits the footprint that was laid out for the current bleachers, and this is what we measured with the companies, have the measurements of the concrete, and that's what they bid was for that.
So there was discussion possibly Park District staff demoing the current ones. Is that,
So as of right now, I recommend to accept the demo. There was talks if that we could do it along with the school. I know Charlie had mentioned that he would help. I don't know if that's the case.
I think that's who put them in, was our staff, if I remember right.
No, that's Safe LLC installed
LLC
them.
put
I
them
think
in.
they helped
They-
tear down and help mobilize some of
helped do
it.
it,
But
okay.
with the way that bid came in, if it would have been a $387,000 bid, we probably would have done this internally. But since we got competitive bids, we felt it was best to have them do it since they're here on site.
So
My thought process would be if they can come after football's over and take them out, or if they just want to come all in the spring. I have reached out to Mark Wiest about finishing track meets early in May so we can get them on site in May and be done before summer track starts there. Is the thoughts.
So really, if we make a motion, it should be up to that 217, but it could be less then. Is that correct?
Yeah, up to the 217 covers the demo of the project.
Okay. Any other questions for Dave or comments or?
With the lead times, we just feel like that we have to get this stuff ordered so it's going to be ready to go by the time we are ready for it. So.
So, Cole, you explained 3 ways: school district, park district, and then what we have in the joint powers.
So the park district will be the lead. We'll pay for the project. We'll get reimbursed by the joint powers fund along with the school district share.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposal of $217,301, including the demolition from Safe LLC for the east side bleachers.
Motion by Commissioner Melhoff, second by Commissioner Mutter. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Commissioner Melhoff,
Aye.
Commissioner Freilich,
Aye.
Commissioner Mutter.
Aye.
Aye from me as well.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you, Dave.
Commissioners, just to follow up on that, so that would be the last component of that ADA requirements to meet those updates. Obviously, everything else is in play. We've ordered the materials, but this was the last large piece. So this will be, again, as we mentioned, hopefully in the fall we can get it removed, come into the spring, get it rolling, and then we have already reached out to the Department of Justice to make sure that we have everything rolling and what the next steps would be, so we have plenty of time to meet those standards.
Moving on to item number 5, consider approval updates to personnel handbook.
So before you are a few updates to our handbook. As things pop up throughout the year, we have little issues that we have to make sure meet the criteria that maybe weren't clearly stated in our handbook. And the first one is about background checks and updates. Before we had human resources, the managers would do the background checks through our payroll software, and then that information would come back to them and really wasn't being seen by all administration. And so we built together our criteria for our criminal background checks, and then they would come to HR. If a background check came back negatively, meaning didn't meet our standards of expectations for an employee for the park district, and I always tell everybody, if we hire someone and their background check on the front page of the Tribune, would we be happy? And that's kind of how we operate, is we want to make sure we are safe and have great employees working for us. And so that just basically spells out how a drug test and the background check would tie in together, and basically puts the hiring manager, human resources, and along with myself, if there were a situation in a background check that we have to make the determination we want this employee to work for us. And again, these are employees 18 years of age are the ones who go through background checks and are volunteers. The second component is our health savings account. We hired a new employee this year who actually has the ability to tie in with some veterans benefits. And so when you do access your VA benefits, you're not allowed to contribute or get benefits from an HSA. So we wanted to clarify that in our handbook. So it just basically states at any point an employee becomes ineligible to contribute to HSA, they must notify us or notify HR that they are using their VA benefits. Then we would have to stop our HSA contributions until that is processed. And that's just something that we learned this year for the first time. The third component is our vacation. We've had some employees who get hired kind of in between a payroll. And so how do we prorate the start dates in the end as far as when they accrue their vacation or sick leave? So we did spell that out in here, and it's just basically saying that you will accrue your vacation as your first paycheck. We will be bringing something in July at our retreat, additional items to sick leave accruals and putting a cap to that. But I'm not going to present that component tonight because it's going to take a little more detailed information to present to you. So that's the only thing we're just clarifying on the sick and vacation accruals, is just when they were hired, it will come on your first paycheck. And then as far as FEMLA, just broke out some of the details in regards to when you're on vacation or sick leave or maternity leave, that you have to provide this FEMLA. And we've had some instances where a percentage of their health insurance has to be paid. And while they're on FEMLA and they're on unpaid leave, it has happened over times with depending on their balances, then that percentage needs to be, compensated through the individual who's taken their FEMLA. So we just wanted to pay that, designate that component out there. We haven't had it happen. There was a situation that we thought maybe it was, but it was addressed, and so we just wanted to bring it before you. So having Tyra in our HR has allowed us to spend a little more time on some of these little details that kind of seem to pop up unexpectedly, and I think she's doing a good job, and you'll start seeing more of these, hopefully every quarter, as needed to bring it before you. So with the 4 items listed in front of you, is my recommendation to approve as presented. And I'll stand for any questions you may have.
I was just gonna make, I recommend approval as presented.
Motion by Commissioner Mutter,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Freilich. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. And item number 6, authorization of our monthly bills.
I'll move to approve payment of our monthly bills.
Motion by Commissioner Melhoff,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Freilich. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And item number 7, any additional commissioner staff reports?
Commissioner, just want to add a couple points. So the vault toilet at the boat ramp was installed on Friday afternoon. It is functional and operating. The fish cleaning station the permit has been approved. The information as far as the drain field and some of the design is being completed right now by A2S. We hope to have all that information, all the materials, and try to have it somewhat by Labor Day, probably after Labor Day, same time when we're talking about the ADA lift. So hopefully by the end of this, the fishing season, we should have that fish cleaning station in. Old Red Trail Phase 1, basically from Sunset West out past to 30th Avenue Northwest, that has been paved. It should be done hopefully in the next 2 weeks. They're doing intersections where they're making it ADA compliant. That will be completed. Strategic plan, I will shoot out the agenda again, just in case there's items in that retreat that maybe there's some things that maybe you want to have for discussion or requires research. We talked about the All Seasons Arena parking lot. We did have discussions with the school district last week about how it's going to be demoed. Looks like some bidding is going to go out sometime in that August, September, with awarding in October. Construction, probably as far as construction of demo, may not happen until it frees up so that they can tear the items above ground, work their way down, and then haul that off over the frozen months. There is going to be some implications to the All Seasons Arena. We're trying to figure that out as far as sidewalk, emergency access to the upstairs of the wrestling room, how we're going to be able to get snow removal, how we're going to protect the parking lot. There's a lot of moving parts, and then we're trying to work on the actual replat of that site to make sure we have enough adequate parking and have enough adequate space around the perimeter of the All Seasons Arena, and then how it's going to function, not knowing what's going to be built next to us. We've asked for a 50-foot easement at a minimum, so we can get snow equipment, vehicles, back trucks in to unload wrestling equipment and mats and whatever that may happen in the future. And then the big question is going to be is when they do excavate the foundations of that old high school gym, which abuts to the east of the All Seasons Arena backside, how does that foundation wall and the excavation of the soil and materials, how is all that going to be put back, and what's the elevation of the ground? So we budgeted $100,000 in 27 to be able to do some landscaping, and I don't think that number is going to be high enough. So I just want to have a good discussion. We have maps, but we have to be prepared for some improvements to make that site suitable. The question we brought up is don't make your problem our problem. So we want to play nice in the same sandbox and hopefully be able to address our needs. But parking's the biggest concern with, we know, equipment and things going on there, driving back and forth. The condition of that parking lot's not in good condition today, so it's probably going to get deteriorated even worse. And then just the last couple items is we're meeting with Commissioner Melhoff, with the sports complex, with the football, Mandan Touchdown Club. We've been talking, I didn't want rumors getting out there, but there's just discussion about trying to add on strategically a fundraising campaign to do some type of locker room expansion with all the events and activities that are going up there. It's a great idea. Funding's just going to be about a $2 to $3 million wish list, and so how we want to get that direction and communication, how we want that to move forward, if it was to move forward from the Park District. And then last, Attorney Ruff just told me that he did make contact this week with JLG, had spoke to his assistant, and then waiting for a return phone call back. That's all I have.
Okay, cool. Dave?
Just one update with Raging Rivers. It's been warm, so it's been good, but we've implemented $8 Mondays, and it's packed every Monday. So it's been good.
Commissioner Mutter, anything?
I'm just going to thank everybody for working on the 4th of July. I went past Region Rivers after the parade, and the place is packed, and you go past the golf course on the 4th of July, and that was packed. So I just want to thank the employees for working on the 4th. So thanks, guys.
Commissioner Freilich?
I've got nothing.
Commissioner Melhoff?
Speaking of Raging Rivers, you didn't get any calls of a gray-haired guy ripping down some slides there? Okay. Yeah, took my boy there. Had a good time.
All right. Future meeting dates for Park Board Commissioners, July 28th, strategic planning retreat at 4 o'clock at the Park Administration Office. And then our next regularly scheduled meeting will be August 11th, right here at 5:30. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion adjourn.
Motion by Commissioner Mutter,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Freilich. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.